all to ITAR online webinar. My name is Dr. Ahmed Al-Kattan, the founder of ITAR Group. First of all, thank you, Dr. Mohammed, for accepting my invitation. Dr. Mohammed Al-Kattan is Associate Professor of Marine Science and Technology at Newcastle University in UK. Dr. Mohammed is an officer in the Kuwaiti Navy who worked on board the Kuwaiti missile ship of years. He also worked in the Kuwaiti Naval Institute, teaching and supervising several models such as celestial navigation. His research interests are related to marine pollution, fishery, shipping technology, remote sensing, blue economy, maritime navigation, and many others. And he has published many high-ranked peer-review articles related to those subjects. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, again, and the floor is yours. After your presentation, we'll open the floor for questions. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. أول شيء السلام عليكم, all of you. I know this would be in English, but I might speak sometimes in Arabic and English. But anyone doesn't speak Arabic here? Are they all native English or Arabic, Kuwaitis? Who are the participants? Do they all speak Arabic?
Some of them speak in Arabic, and there is others speak in English. So it's international webinar. So different nationalities.
That's fine. Yes. First, thank you all for joining us. And it's a discussion. I don't like to talk all the time, and questions at the end. If you have any question, just raise it. I like participants to participate with me during the lecture. So, but I want to know, are they all PhD students? So I know how to address. If anyone doing a PhD, in what stage he is or she is she doing master? So what's the purpose of this lecture? Do you want to know the data analysis, or from the beginning of the qualitative data analysis, or the purpose of the research? So what are you doing? سنة أولى دكتوراه, طلاب دكتوراه. I guess everyone.
80%, Dr. Mohammed.
PhD students.
80% PhD and doctors. They are already starting their work, and professors as well. And maybe 20% masters and bachelor. So 80% PhD and doctors.
Can you text me, just text, anyone doesn't speak Arabic? I don't speak Arabic. Okay, so it will be in English. Okay, it will be in English. So the purpose of this lecture, I'm going to prepare you. And first, I would like to say that all research, PhD, bachelor, even after the PhD, if you're working on articles, they all form under the same perspective. They all, you have the same structure, you have the same phases. I don't see anyone now.
Sorry, Victor.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. So the purpose of the PhD is a training for the research. So in the UK education system, we prepare you as a PhD student to be a researcher at the end. So the main point, you work on research after the PhD. So that's the main point. So some people mix up that they think that when they finish their PhD, they have to teach or only teach. Yes, you you are able to teach, but this is not your primary job. Your primary job is research, supervising students and working on research, basically. So teaching is a secondary job for the PhD holders. So what you meant to know in the PhD is to know how to do a proper research. So it is a training process. Mostly, I haven't seen a failed PhD students. It's hard to fail a PhD unless it's plagiarism or other issues or deadlines. But if you follow the supervisors, if you do the proper research or the proper analysis, if you work on deadlines, it's hard to fail a PhD, because the Viva, when you finish the PhD, can anyone tell me what's the Viva? What do they know? What do they want to know from you in the Viva? I guess people, it's not an examination. It's
Dr. Mohammed, sorry for interrupt, but
yes.
you know, Viva, it's the definition of Viva, or the Viva itself, just in UK maybe, but other
Yeah,
countries
the
they call
Viva,
it another
yeah, it's the
to define
defense.
it.
When you finish the PhD, you're gonna defense it. You're gonna speak about it, whatever it's a face-to-face lecture, or you're gonna provide a presentation. But in the UK, you do the Viva. We do have Viva. Uh, yes. So there are some purposes of the Viva. First thing, it's a protocol. You have to do the Viva because it's by the law. Or if you wanna hold a PhD, they have to defend you. They have to, it's not an examination. It's because it's a protocol. It's the regulation of the PhD. The second thing, they want to know if you wrote the PhD or not by discussing all the structures of the PhD or the chapters. Because some people, the supervisors, do most of the job. So they want to make sure that you have worked on the PhD enough. The third thing, it's what they will address what you're gonna do after the PhD. So they want to know the research interests you're gonna work, or the path of the research interests you're gonna do after the PhD. So my main point is the PhD holders, they have to work on articles, on research, conferences, because that's the way to make difference of the field or the institution you work on after the PhD. Teaching is, yeah, maybe some people have their jobs need to teach, but yeah, there is the slides. I'm gonna share them in a minute. I'm gonna send also by emails if you need the slides. So the point of the PhD, you know, the proper research analysis, the proper research structure, the proper way how to pick up first the topic of the research you're going to work on, how to define the problem, and how to choose the proper methodology and how to answer the research questions, and how to analyze it, and how to give a proper recommendation how to solve the problem. It's straightforward. Picking the topic, how to define the problem, because sometimes you define the problem and when you work on the problem, you will discover later it's not a serious problem. So it will be waste of time and waste of money if you work on this research for example, 1 year. So the first job for you is how to choose or how to decide that this problem is a serious problem. And when I solve this problem in my country or my field or my institute, it will be a big difference. So part of the PhD, when we ask you, what we gonna know after the PhD that we don't know now? So when you spend 4 years or 5 years of your time or 3 years, so what you have achieved, so what difference you have made to the field. So that's the main purpose of the PhD. And yes, I'm going to focus today on the qualitative data analysis. It's a short lecture. It's a course for about 1 week. But I'm going to just jump from a topic to topic, and just to give you an idea how to make a proper qualitative research, PhD, master, or even article or research after the PhD. And how to share the slides. 1 second.
You can press share screen.
Yeah. Let's check this is the proper slide. Yeah. Where is the share screen? Share
Down.
screen. Yeah.
Share screen.
Yeah. Do you see the slides now?
Yes, we can.
Good. Yeah. So also, I think the best, or one of the best books I had used and I teach to my students about the qualitative dissertation or the qualitative research type. It's called completing your qualitative dissertation, a roadmap from beginning to end, by Linda Dale. Do you see me now, or just you see the slides?
Yeah, we can see both.
Good. So, as I told you, this is a 1 week module. It has some exercises. Now, my first question, as I said, how to decide I'm going to do a research methodology, qualitative or quantitative, or a lab report. First, every researcher has like a research approach. Do you know? Where's my screen? Yeah.
Dr. Mohammed, if you can maximize it, it will be better for everyone to see it clearly.
Yeah, now I see. Now, yeah. Can you make it bigger, please? Yes, of course. Full screen. It's all right now.
There is a full screen down the slide. You can see the right. Yes.
It's the slideshow.
Yes, slideshow, exactly. Yes, now it's better. Yes.
Good. So my question now, how to decide that I'm going to do a qualitative data analysis or qualitative research or quantitative research or whatever, lab research. How would I decide that? So first, when you pick up it based on many variables, one of them is the topic you have chose, because some of the topics, you have to do lab reports based on your background or on your education or on the topic itself. Some research, you have to do interviews. Some research, you have to do mixed methodology. Well, I suggest to my students that they do now mixed research methodology, qualitative and quantitative. As I told you, it's a training. I want to give the students a chance to hold all or to try all research methodologies. So after the PhD, the students will know what is the best to do for each topic. So firstly, when you think about the topic, that's will suggest what research methodologies you will use. If you choose qualitative, of course, it's mostly interviews. based on the research approach. Have you heard about the research approach? Slideshow. The research approach based on, as I said, your qualification on and your school of thought, the nature of the topic, of course, and sometimes, yeah, the nature of the topic, the theories, of course, the theories, and how would you understand an evidence. Some people, for example, they need a scientific evidence to support their claim. Some it's called the positivism. If you are positivist, it has to be a scientific approach to knowledge. Yes, it has to be a scientific evidence that you support your claims. And also, this doesn't form your methodology only. It forms how do you choose your literature and how to analyze your literature and how to link them together. So this is the main thing, is the topic itself. The supervisors will help you in how to choose your research methodology. Also, if there's a similar researches, you would understand this topic has to be, for example, qualitative. When you choose the qualitative, then it will form how to retrieve your literature, how to read them, how to analyze them, and how to form a research theory or a research approach. And then when you choose the research approach, or you are familiar with a specific research approach, for example, you chose now a methodology of interviews. Now, there's something else called a conceptual analysis. The conceptual analysis, it forms what are the concepts and what are the definitions, the theories they're gonna, or maybe you come up with your own theory and how to support and how to build up your research. One example, for example, now I'm working on the Kuwaiti blue economy. The blue economy is using the maritime and the marine resources and how to like build a proper economy in Kuwait. It's based on the environment and how to work on the environment, the Kuwaiti environment. But based on my approach, if I, for example, the nationalism, it means that the Kuwaiti environment and the resource, the marine resources has to be a Kuwaiti. So that will form the Kuwaiti companies and to work with me. So it means that the natural resources has to be Kuwaitis, for example. If my approach or my theory or my perspective or my concept will be, for example, the environmental protection. So my main idea and how to protect the environment, the main concept of the research, how to protect the environment, not on the economic side, but from the environmental side. So this it's still a marine research, but the perspective has to be from a different concept. If I'm working from the law side, so it's still a marine side, but in how to enhance the marine protection law or regulations. So yes, because I haven't changed the screen yet. So the research approach, it will form the research methodology later. So when you know all about the concepts, the theories, the literature you have used, now the next step, you will form your questions, you will find the gaps in the literature, and you will know who to ask or who to interview. So, any questions so far? Yes. The main, we are now, I'm going to transfer to the methodology. Yeah. The paradigm, as I said, it's based on your background. If you are subject, or your school of thought, are you subjective or objective or radical about a topic? It's based on your background. The supervisors may influence you. The literature you have been inspired of, the institute you are working on, also the funders, maybe the funders of your project or your scholarship, they all gonna work on your or designing your mentality. Because after the PhD, also you still have not clear approach. You will work there and there. But after 3, 4 articles, 5 articles, conferences you attend, then you will form your mentality, your approach, your theories. And if you read any writer after the PhD, so you will see the transformation of his or her mentality and her approach or theories or evidences or claims. They will form until the end. You will have a clear theories or clear school of thought. The topic, of course, will form some supervisors, the literature you read, the funders, the institute, the country you're working in. So theory is required in a qualitative, of course, yeah. But sometimes it depends on, of course, on the project, the type of project you're working on. But some institutes or some schools, they will ask you to write a chapter about the theories or a conceptual analysis. They will ask you. In the natural science, we don't ask, but the social science, they have to have a section or a chapter talking about all the theories and the conceptual analysis chapter. So you have to talk about it. I want to know what is the problem that fit with the qualitative research. Yeah, there are, of course, advantages and disadvantages with the qualitative research. For my, from my perspective, it is more rich than quantitative because you know better with a qualitative. But sometimes you have limitations with the people talking. Sometimes you waste your time. Sometimes you travel all the way to, for example, to a country, and the outcomes of the interviews are nothing. So you have to redo the interviews again. It is a long process, but if you want to know deep about the subject, yes, the interviews is your key, but also sometimes you will need a second fieldwork or a second methodology, and a mixed methodology, of course. So qualitative as primary, secondary as quantitative. You can shift them, you can mix them. So there's something I can't understand. Nigeria, from Nigeria. Okay. I want to know what is the research problem that fit with the qualitative research. That's abroad. It depends on the topic itself. I have students now. She's working on the management, the crisis management in Oman, the marine crisis management. She had a field work with the qualitative, but the first field work, about 20 interviews, she had nothing. The useful interviews were maybe 2 or 3 out of 20. So she had to do a second interviews, but because the problem is very sensitive, the people are not talking. So we have to switch to quantitative. In qualitative analysis, I feel confused because has lots of information. So how to keep focusing? This is a good question, actually. Qualitative research methods are designed in a manner that, okay. One of the main platforms we use in qualitative research analysis is, if you come across, it's called Nvivo. The Nvivo research, the Nvivo, I mean, platform, I think it's available. I'll switch the screen now.
Dr. Mohammed,
Yes.
I think it will be better if you do your lecture as a full lecture and then open the questions, because we have a lot of questions and
Yeah,
you
because
know
I can't keep up with the questions.
yeah, you can't I
Many
know
questions. Yeah.
yeah. So I believe if you finish up your lecture full everything, we can understand everything, and everyone will write down any of the question. You can write it in a Q&A, or as always, raise hand and we'll go one by one to ask a question for Dr. Mohammed. I think it will be better for you, Dr. Mohammed. Otherwise, it will be confusing.
Yeah. So, as I said, the topic itself, it might give you the idea and how to use the research methodology. The research methodology, it has to be with a clear thought. It has to be designed well. It has to be fit with the literature, because in the literature, when you do a deep digging into the literature, you find the gaps with the literature, and then because of your school of thought or your theories you are based on, or the conceptual analysis, you will know how to approach to answer the research questions. Because when you choose the topic, you define the problem, you dig into the literature, then you identify what are the main research questions. From the main research questions and the sub questions, you will know what you need from the data collection. So the research questions after or before the literature review, this will form what you will need to know from this PhD at the end. So the research questions, they will give you like a hint and what is the best way to approach to get the research questions well. So the research questions will define, are you using mainly interviews or quantitative or surveys? So when you decide that you want to do the interviews, then you will decide, for example, who will you interview, and what are the questions to be answered, and what are the backgrounds of the people you are interviewing, and the themes you're gonna analyze later. Because one of the questions here, of course, you're gonna sit, for example, for 1 hour for interview, that will be about 10 pages. You transcribe, you will need only maybe sometimes 1 page or 2 pages. How it is a long time to transcribe. You will need maybe 3 to 4 hours to transcribe one interview for 1 hour, but you will use 10% or 20% of that information, sometimes zero. You will not use any of them. So at the end, when you do 40 or 50 or sometimes 100 of interviews, it is a much information. You will need only specific themes. The themes you have decided in the literature, of course, with the data, the literature review, and the questions you have raised for the research questions and the problem definition. You will need specific themes. So the themes, you decide how to analyze them from the interviews. I use Nvivo. If you come across to Nvivo before, it is one of the most professional platforms that will analyze because I can't see now. Do you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, yeah. Do you see a full screen?
No, it's not full. Yes, now I think it will be full. Just a minute. No, no.
No? No?
Yeah, now it's better, but it's not a full screen. It's a full screen, but not what's call it the slideshow.
Yeah, because
To make it,
now I can't see the questions.
I think do you mean the
The
attendees?
chat, yeah, yeah,
No.
yeah.
It will be better, Doctor, to just
Good.
go ahead and finish your class, and then after that we will open the
Yeah.
questions.
Okay.
So don't worry about chat. We'll read it later.
What we use now, I suggest to the students they use Nvivo. This program is one of the most professional platforms in how to analyze and how to form a qualitative data analysis. My suggestion, you use it from the literature review, because when you do coding, when you work, as I said, when you have, for example, 100 interviews, maybe you will need 6 to 7 months to analyze them and to transcribe them all. But with Nvivo, the 6 or 7 months will be about 1 month or 2 months. It is very effective platform. You could build a model on it, or design a model or different models. Then you will choose from the models you have decided which one you want to decide more to your literature. So when you use it for the literature from the beginning, it will organize your literature. It will form the themes you have selected from the beginning. Then you can link it easily to the data analysis. You analyze the data in the Nvivo. Then you have like already discussion chapter. You just select from or link from the data analysis to the literature, and you can discuss them all in one chapter. This is one of the most easiest program you will work. It is very effective, very straightforward, and you could analyze not only interviews, maps, pictures, voice recordings. So, and you can build up models. So this is the shape of the program. It's called Nvivo. It's also compatible with Microsoft and Apple, but you don't find all the features in Apple. I suggest you work with Microsoft. So when you open from the beginning, if you want to use it from the literature, after the defining the questions and the research questions, now you know what exactly you're working on in the literature. So for example, these are the themes. When you start, for example, I'm working on the Kuwaiti pollution now. So you decide that one of the problems with the pollution is the regulations in Kuwait. Are the regulations applied in Kuwait? Is it corruption? Is it immigration? Is it because of the natural, for example, the sewage? Is it the shipping? Is it the oil spills? So you have the themes. For example, 1, oil spills. 2, sewage. And then you work on the literature. X said that the main problem with the Kuwaiti pollution is sewage, and he has an evidence. So you retrieve that evidence and that claim to the Nvivo, and you retrieve the evidence of his evidence. The second one, Y said that the problem with the Kuwaiti pollution is the oil spills, and this is his evidence. So you retrieve that and you code that and record that to the Nvivo. Then the program will link them together and review this evidence with this evidence. And then you have, like for the interviews, you have a theme now to discuss who in the literature, you know, you have 2 claims. One of them said oil spills, one of them said sewage. Then this is like you wanna, in the interviews, you wanna ask someone from the sewage, for example, organization, someone from the oil industry. So you have your own data now. 2 interviews, everyone has claims. You have 4 claims in total now, 4 evidences, and you record them in the Nvivo. Then you build up the model to review all of them together, link them together, and you have a ready chapter to speak about it in the discussion chapter. You analyze this, and you have your own claim or your own interpretation with these claims. So when you work like that from the beginning, you will have like, firstly, you will be fast, you will be organized, and more accurate. So you're not missing everything. Also, you could not transcribe with this program. When you retrieve the voice recording, if you record the interview, you don't have, if you already selected the themes, you know what to look in the interviews. You do not have to transcribe all the interview. You listen, you record, and you take only the section where you're interested in or which fits the themes or the set questions from the beginning. So we need a different lecture on the Nvivo and how to use it properly and more effectively. But this is your friend if you want to work with qualitative. With the quantitative, you have many platforms. One of them is SPSS, which is also effective. And the good thing, you can link the Nvivo models or the model designs with the regression you have made in the SPSS, and you can link them together and you can interrupt them together in the discussion chapter. So this is when you record the theme or nodes, you name the theme here, the new tree node, for example, oil spills and the Kuwaiti pollution. And you record the interviews, all the interviews, every interview, if you transcribe it and you retrieve it to the program, you write the background of the interviewee and a summary introduction. And then if you want to compare the interviewees themselves, for example, the oil industry said that, and the oil industry claims, or the legal claims, or the private industry. So you have a model comparing the backgrounds of the interviewees. So you have a thematic models or a thematic analysis with the Nvivo. You can link or compare the claims. You compare the backgrounds, the jobs, or the evidences they showed in the interviews. So you have a different models, thematic analysis. You can, after that, you can choose what models are useful to your research, and you can save them for later researches. But you can choose from the models what is useful, what is not useful in the interviews themselves, what is useful, what is not useful. So it will make your life easier. It's and more effective and more accurate. Am I online?
Yes.
Victor? Okay.
Yes.
I think now I finished the main things with this lecture. I'm willing to answer questions now. Yeah, we spent about 45 minutes or 40 minutes.
Do you want to open the floor for question, Doctor?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, guys. Anyone
sorry
want to ask a question?
Because this is a broad topic. We can't see your Nvivo. This is a broad topic. As I said, the course is about 1 week or 2 weeks, and the students, they have it in 3 months. So I have to rush everything within 45 minutes or less. So this is not detailed course. It's just a general idea about the qualitative data analysis.
About Nvivo, there will be a webinar about it. So don't worry about it right now. So as Dr. Mohammed said, this technique or this method, it's really big or broad. He can't do it or do it in just 45 minutes. So I think if anyone have any question, guys, just raise your hand and we'll go one by one to answer any of your question. So starting with Mina Talib. Mina, your mic is mute. After Mina, Mid Nazmal Hassan. Mina, your mic is mute. Okay, now. Your voice is not clear, Mina. We can't hear you, but your voice is not clear. Your voice is not clear. I think it will be better if you write your question in the Q&A, and I will read it to Dr. Muhammad to answer it. MD.
Yes.
Yes.
May I ask a question to the professor?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Professor, hi, Professor. I'm from Bangladesh, Mohammad Nazim Hassan. I'm doing a research, actually. And the nature of my research approach is, research paradigm is mixed methodology.
Okay.
So what should I do? Actually, for example, I would like to go for an holistic approach for my research. I'm doing research in the field of mental health literacy. And for that, first, I would like to just make an interview, and later validate my interview. I would like to go for the, sorry for the interruption. I would like to go for a survey to just justify my research.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's the question?
So the question is that you are talking about the content analysis. You are talking about thematic analysis. Talking about, you're talking about different kinds of technique for doing qualitative research. So if the research is something like dominated by the qualitative research and less dominated by the quantitative research, in this case, to figure out the phenomenon, to figure out the ground realities, actually, how many samples for doing the interview can I take,
Actually, there is no,
because
how many interviews you think you're gonna use?
Yes.
There is no limit. Sometimes you need only 40 for the PhD. Sometimes 200 is not enough. It's not about how many interviews, how many information there are in the interviews. For example, if you ask 100 person about the topic and they claim something and one person claimed something else, but with evidence, this will value all. So it's not how many interviews, it's how rich the information in the interviews. There is no limit. But with the PhD in the UK, minimum is 40.
Yes.
For the social science, minimum is 40. One of the each interview is not less than 1 hour. But that's not a rule. That's not a regulation. It depends. Sometimes, as I said, you need 100. Sometimes 20 is enough. But the problem, problem, that the point of the interviews or the PhD is not the interviews themselves. It's a training. We want to train you how to do the interviews.
Okay.
That's why we have a limit of 40 1 hour each. We want to train you how to ask the questions. For example, if you're talking about sensitive information, most of the interviewees will not answer. If you ask them your question, their details, the names or the job from the beginning. So for the students, we suggest that you don't ask private information. You leave them to the end. So that's why the interviewees will be more comfortable to talk. It's a training, as I said.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
that's for
So,
everyone. The PhD Viva, when you defend the Viva, mostly they don't talk about the results. They talk about the methodology, because of course we care about the results you have and the data collection you had, but it's a training, as I said. We want to see how did you choose your methodology, how did you analyze them, how do you approach to the methodology. So the results are important, but not the most important. All the PhD Viva, if you ask the students who pass the Viva, they will say they will never ask about the results. They will ask about the methodology mainly and the literature mainly, and sometimes the discussion at the end.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Perfect. Thank you very much. Just one more thing, actually. You are talking about Nvivo.
Yes.
You have been talking about Nvivo.
Yeah.
So for analyzing qualitative data.
Yeah.
Nvivo. So is there any other open source software for doing that kind of qualitative data, or for analyzing that kind of qualitative data very easily? Is there any kind of open source and free software?
This is not free. Well, I'm aware of Nvivo because I worked with Nvivo for about 9 years now. I'm teaching Nvivo in Newcastle University. Of course, there are maybe some other platforms, but sorry, I only know Nvivo, and I know how to work with it.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
Thank you. What is the way to learn Nvivo quickly? Yeah.
Your mic is mute, Zuhra. Zuhra, your mic is mute. If you unmute your mic, so you can ask your question. The next one, Nermeen. Nermeen will be the next one. After that, Zubair.
I have a question. It's a very good question, actually. From Lubna Ghanem. I have a question, she said. Do you have an advice regarding interview questions? Do we create new questions, or can we use combination of questions used in previous researches? I think you have to get your own questions based on the research questions, but you have to make them open-ended. It's not a survey. It's not a questionnaire. It's an interview, for example. And one of the most mistakes that the PhD students do when they do the interview, they express their thoughts about the topic. This will guide the interviewee to get along what they want to say. So if you do that with several interviewees, we will see the patterns of the interview transcripts that most of the interviewees have the same perspective about the topic, because and somehow the interviewer forced them to talk about the subject in this way. So that's why you ask an open question and you let them express their opinion freely. So don't force them into the topic. So yes, you have to get your own questions and you make them open-ended.
Zuhra? Zubair? After Zubair, no, will be.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Alaikum salam.
Doctor, I have question. You informed that Nvivo has option if we provide initial theme ourselves. So then they can, without transcription, they can get data from the audios. So according to Yan, there are two different perspective: inductive perspective, grounded theory based, and theoretical proposition based analysis. So as you told, it is I think theoretical proposition based. So this method can be used with the grounded theory inductive method or not?
So I didn't hear you well. Can you say again, please?
You told that in Nvivo
Yeah.
there are options that we provide themes, and
Yeah.
Nvivo software will retrieve data in audio formats and other formats without transcription. So it is only for preposition based or pre-decided themes based, or can be with grounded theory, inductive grounded theory?
You could do both actually. You can choose your own themes, or you can, and you also can, when you transcribe, when you for example retrieve the recording and you record you're hearing an interview or you're reading an interview's transcript, and you become with a different theme. It haven't been thought and you haven't been thought about it, and you can make it a new theme and link it to the literature, link it to the data analysis, or link it to other platforms. So you can record the new themes. It's a going on project. So you read, and mostly you will have a different themes at the end from the data collection only, not from the literature. And then you'll find the gaps between the literature and the data analysis and the data collection.
Okay, and if I understand clearly that without transcription we can analyze in Nvivo, is it right?
Yes, I don't recommend it. I always suggest for the students to transcribe everything, but sometimes because of the time manners and because of some deadlines, yes, you could do that. You could do that, but I suggest that you transcribe everything. But you have the option not to transcribe everything.
Okay, Jazakallah khair.
Thank you.
No. Thank you, Zubair. No. Yes, no.
Hello.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you, Professor, for your time. I just want to ask that in my research as a first-year student, I'm building my methodology now. I'm thinking for using a mixed method technique with the social constructionism and interpretivism as a paradigm. But when I review the literature, I found that Crosswell mentioned the pragmatic paradigm as appropriate paradigm for a mixed method technique. My question is,
for the social science.
Yes, in a social science.
Yes, I'm talking from the natural science, but this is, yeah, the social science, maybe they have different approaches.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking if, because I'm using the interpretivism, and I adopt this kind of technique to describe or discuss my data at the end as much more qualitative in my research, more than quantity, sorry. Yeah. So if I start writing in a methodology chapter from your experience, as a mixed method technique, I'm using social constructionism because of this and that, and then I'm using the interpretivism as for this and that, and after that, do I need to mention that the pragmatic paradigm is the most appropriate paradigm for this type of research?
Exactly, yeah.
So how can I justify this? It's only because it's allow the researcher to use two type of technique. But I'm already explain. Sorry, but I'm already explain everything and justify the use of social constructionism and interpretivism as an ontology and epistemology in my research. So how can I justify the use of pragmatic paradigm?
Well, you don't have to justify it. The methodology chapter, you're going to change even maybe at the end. So you will keep changing because you are trying different methods. You are trying different questions, different theories.
Yeah.
So yes, of course, there is a section on the limitations. Why did you change the paradigm? Why did you use this theory but not this theory? What are the limitations? You have made the interviews, but you find nothing. Then you have to shift to the quantitative, but you still have to mention the interviews. What are the limitations? Because maybe sometimes sensitive data, the interviewees refuse to talk about it, or they are very protective about it. So that's why this is one of the limitations, for example, in the Middle East. So you have to be shifted to questionnaires and quantitative. So you have to mention everything. You don't justify, but you mention the situation. I have used this because I have limitations because of that.
Yeah, so if I start writing about the social constructionism and then interpretivism, do I need to mention also, according to Crosswell, the pragmatic paradigm is the most appropriate paradigm, blah, 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 or it's enough if I justify the use of social constructionism and interpretivism as a paradigm itself?
This will be left to the supervisor, because I think in the social science you have limitations of 1800 words for the PhD, or 1100.
Yeah, but as a PhD, so maybe because I'm not writing for the end of my work, but it's I'm just starting now, so this is why I'm thinking it's yeah.
Sometimes, well, that's question difference between a supervisor to another. Sometimes the supervisors ask you to add this. Sometimes they make you remove it. Sometimes the same supervisor asks you to put it at the beginning and remove it at the end.
Yeah, but from your experience, what do you think?
Well, I think I ask my students to record everything, so to show the Viva that I worked on this and I've been shifting. And if there's a word limitations, you could ask the university to extend your words limitations to 100, for example, thousands.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is that clear?
Thank you, Nof. Adnan, sorry, Rafiq.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
كيف الحال؟
حياك الله.
حياك الله. شكرا دكتور على المحاضرة القيمة. أستاذ بجامعة في الجزائر، مدرس لمقياس منهجية البحث العلمي. So please, normally my concern is about the subjectivity of the data collected. So as you know, in qualitative research methods, they involve systematic collection, organization, and interpretation of material in textual form from the participant, whether from talk, interviews, or observation, classroom observations, or field observations. So normally the result is they are very useful to explore the meanings of social phenomena as experienced by those individuals. But the problem is that in human and social sciences, community still looks at quantitative research with skepticism, and they accuse the entire work as being subjective because it is lacking facts. So what should those students do, those who are embarking in that adventure?
You mean to choose between the two methods?
No, just for the first one, whether it is a completely quantitative or qualitative or a mixture of the two. People always claim that the data, because when you are interviewing people, if the interview is an open-ended or all the questions are open-ended, you will end up by the end with a huge pile of information that might be very demanding at the level of the analysis, whether you are using a software like the Nvivo or any other software. So you will end up with a huge amount of data that you cannot analyze, and it is consuming time.
Sorry to interrupt. That's one of the Viva purposes, because you have, as I said, too much information.
Yeah.
So they will suggest you to use, because you will use only, for example, 20 or 30% of them with the PhD. The Viva, because they are experts, they will suggest you, because this will be the first article you publish after the PhD. Some of them will be used from the interviews you have gained in the PhD, because they are rich information. You didn't use them, you didn't need them at that time, but you need them for further work. So it's not waste of time, it's not waste of information. You will use them in different projects. There are some platforms now like Mendeley, if you know it.
Yes.
There are some articles.
Mendeley, yes.
Yes, and there are some journals, for example, Data in a Brief. They only use pure data without analysis. If you have, for example, 100 interviews, you upload them to the Data in a Brief, if you know it. The Data in a Brief journal, it's a Q1 journal, very high impact factor. You provide them, it's a peer-reviewed article, so you provide them with the information you have, and you leave it for other researchers to analyze it. So it's not waste of information. It's still rich information, still important, but you don't need it this time for the PhD. You need it for another project. So thank you for bringing this this question. So for my students now, I ask them to use some of the information, some of the interviews, even quantitative, not just qualitative, for Data in a Brief. That will raise your journal publication. The Data in a Brief, they use pure data. You don't analyze them. You just present them as they are. So for other researchers to use them for their research, but it's still your data. So if you record that Data in a Brief article, that's for Elsevier.
I'm talking from the perspective of a PhD student. I'm not concerned myself. I'm talking about my students. So because when you are dealing with the interview, the most difficult thing is to sort out with coding. Coding is very complicated, the themes, and you have to link them to your research questions. And by the end, the analysis is always, you will go back to your recordings or the interview itself. And this is the biggest difference between qualitative and quantitative, I think. And this is the concern of all the PhD students and even the master students, is how to analyze those data scientifically, though they are not scientifically based, they are subjective. Anyways, this is my concern.
Sometimes they are subjective, sometimes no, because the claims in the interviews may be being supported by an evidence, a scientific evidence.
Yeah, sometimes, yes, true.
Yeah,
yes.
in the interview, for example, I just had a field work with one of the students. He went to the Kuwaiti Scientific Institute. He asked about the number of the pollution in the Kuwaiti waters, or the number of the chemicals in the Kuwaiti waters. And the interviewee supported him with the lab reports, scientific evidence. So, so it's not subjective.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And also, that's for the students. If you do the interviews, you have to know that the interviews, you need information from the interviewees. So any claim the interviewee you are interested in, you ask the interviewee, what is your evidence on that? They probably will support you with evidence. So this will be like original data you have for your research. So the claim, and this is the actual enrichment of the interviewees. Every claim has to be supported with evidence. That's one of the thematic analysis. That's one way of analyzing the claims in the interviews. So any claim during the interview, you ask the interviewee to support it with evidence. If you have evidence, so you have like a rich information in the interviews.
Yeah, that might be. Yeah, this is very interesting if you have scientific claims. But generally, we are working. I'm a lecturer of linguistics at the university. Generally, we are dealing with people working in the human or social sciences. So basically, when you interview someone, the other one will give you completely different thoughts. If you re-administer again the same interview a couple of weeks, you might be puzzled by the difference compared to the first one. So yes, I do believe that in some cases you might have some scientific evidence. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafiq. Adnan.
Yes, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you, Prof. Muhammad, for delivering this valuable, really, presentation about qualitative and how to carry out the qualitative research. According to Merriam and Tester 2016, they suggested that we need to have a framework, theoretical framework, rather than conceptual framework. So to be used, what we call that as lenses to guide you in the whole study or the whole research.
Of course, yeah.
So can we have, Prof. Muhammad, can we have more than one theory for that particular research, or we can employ more than 1, 2, or 3 theories according to our topic?
Well, that depends on the topic itself, because I come from a science background. Sometimes we don't even use theories, but the social science is different. So that's based on the topic itself. And also the school of thought and the research approach for the supervisors. Sometimes the supervisors force the students to do that.
Yeah, you're right, Doctor. You're right. Another question regarding the validity and reliability in quantitative research. We call that other concepts that implemented in qualitative research, such as trustworthiness. So trustworthiness is includes all that reliability and validity. So what's meant by trial audit? Do we need to explain all the procedures that the researchers have or has gone within them? This is regarding the audit trial.
In the PhD, you mean?
Yeah, in the PhD, yes, Doctor.
Yes, yeah. You have to say everything in details.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also for the PhD or for any publication you want to work, something called the ethical approval. The ethical approval for you stay in details. When was the interview? How did you do the interview? Did the interviewee know about the background, about the research? So they have to know everything in details. Otherwise, your information or your interviewees will not be valid. And it probably will be rejected by the PhD or the article.
There is one only question, please. Sorry for taking that time. As I'm doing a case study in what we call that in social science, which is technology, I have to interview some what we call that teachers to have their perspectives about the implementation of technologies.
Yeah.
It's not mentioned clearly, among the others, Tisdale, Miriam, Criswell, all of these, the minimum or the maximum participants, still we reach the saturation, we call that. So is there any, what we call that, limited or starting point for the number of participants mentioned by one of these practitioners?
Yeah, as I told you, there is no limit. It depends on the type of the interviewees. But for the PhD in the natural science, as I said, I think minimum 40. And this is not, actually, it's not a rule. The minimum, we ask 40 participants for the qualitative, and minimum 1 hour each. But this is also not definite. It's not limitations. It depends how good are the interviews.
Thank you, Prof. Muhammad, for delivering this
thank you.
Presentation. And thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you for it. Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you, Dr. Adnan. Dalal?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh. First, thank you so much, Dr. Muhammad and ITAR group represented by Dr. Ahmed for your continuous support for all the students. So my first question, I have investigated a topic, and the interviews response that I have received, there is a contradiction between the responses from different point of views of the participants. So my question, what's the best way to represent or to display this contradiction within my research? And then my second question,
it's not contradiction, it's diversity, we call it. Yeah. Hello?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Could you repeat?
That's normal. That's diversity. It's normal to have not contradiction, diversity between all the interviewees. But it depends how, for example, you have to link them to the literature first.
Yeah.
And as I said, every claim in the interviews has to be with evidence. So that's the analysis. You're going to discuss them in the literature. Does that, for example, for someone X said that, what is your view about it? You are the PhD students. Why do you agree? Why don't you agree? And your claim, their claim. You compare your evidence to their evidence and their evidence to the literature. So that's the discussion. And why you are with it, why you are against it, and so on. This is the discussion, because every claim has to be with a scientific evidence. And what is your view about it? So that's normal. So it has to be like that. Actually, if all the interviewees claim the same thing, something wrong with that. So it has to be some diversity.
Okay, I see. And then my second question, can I, analyze the data without using any software?
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah. You can.
And is the approach that you recommend?
So you have to do them manually. You have to record your themes, and you go to. It depends. What's the way to? What's your way of analysis? Is it thematic, for example? Yeah, but it will take a long time, and you will be missing much.
Okay, I see. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You are welcome. Sundus?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
How are you, mister?
Alhamdulillah.
And thank you for this lecture.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to ask about Nvivo. How can I use it, please?
You mean
Is it an app to install or what?
It's software.
Yeah.
You have to download it, and there's two versions: the Microsoft and the Apple.
Yes, I have an Apple. I mean, can I download it as another apps?
Where do you study?
I'm from Iraq.
I mean, what university?
Yes, University of Babylon.
Every
social sciences, humanities.
Yes, I don't know about your university, but in the university here, you go to the website of the university in the UK, all the universities in the UK, you go to the software license.
Yes.
And
we don't have such a thing. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know about your university, but the way it is, that's for every students here. You go to the software license, you request from the university, because they have a version for the students, it will be free. If you want to buy it, I think it's 300 something, it's expensive. So you download it, they'll give you the activation code, the university itself, then you could use it. Also, you can use it in the university PCs as well. Every university PC have this software.
Yes, and can we depend totally on to analyze the data?
Yes, and you can also link it to the literature. You can analyze the literature with it as well.
Yes, yes.
It's not only you analyze interviews with the Nvivo. You analyze pictures, maps, lab reports, everything you can analyze. It's not just interviews, it's qualitative.
Yes. Is it similar to publish and perish?
I don't know this. I don't know about this.
Yes. No. That's different. That's program. It's for literature review. It's different than the one that Dr. Mohammed talked about it.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fatima.
Simple MS Excel can be used to test data, but apart from regression, what other I can use? I mean, SPSS we can use for the quantitative. Does that answer your question?
Start as well. Fatima, your mic is mute. After Fatima, Nida, so get ready, please. Nida, your mic is mute. Nida, your mic is mute. If you unmute your mic, please. Also Fatima. The next one, Amira. So get ready, Amira. Nida, go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for this presentation. And I'd like to ask you, if I have 3 different data sources, my question is, what's the criteria for analyzing qualitative data? Should we, refer to the literature review by analyzing the main data according to the concept in the literature review, or what's the criteria that we have to follow?
Well, as I said, depends on the topic. First, when you dig into the literature, you will find the gaps. And when you read about a topic in the literature, for example, topic about the pollution, for example, when you dig about the pollution in Kuwait, and you will find a gap, something is missing in the literature, that will form what is the best way to fill these gaps. So you will find your research questions, and then you will find your interview questions. Then you're gonna compare. So the PhD has to be original. So what is your contribution to the topic at the end? So what did you find in the interviews that they haven't been said in the literature? So of course you're gonna link them together. You're gonna link the themes together and the evidences you have from the interviews to the literature. Yes, you find the gaps in the literature, then you link it to the data analysis and the data collection.
Yeah, and my second question,
in the discussion chapter.
Yeah, my second question is, I'm adopting the discourse analysis, and my supervisor told me that discourse analysis is not an analysis method. It could be theoretical framework and something like this. And she told me that I have to code my data by using thematic analysis according to the principle of discourse analysis. I mean, how can I do that? I mean, should I focus on the thematic analysis first, or to do discourse analysis, then mix it? Because it's something confused for me.
Well, I don't know about your topic. I don't know why the supervisor said that, but well, I need to know about more about the topic. Of course, the supervisor said that because, well, that's the way of your topic or maybe background, or sometimes the supervisor's background, because some students, they will know they have first supervisor, the first supervisor, he will say something, and the second supervisor will say the opposite thing. So this is normal. So first you have to listen to the first supervisor, otherwise you convince him. If he's not convinced, you listen and you do whatever he says, because he knows about the topic better, and he probably will know who's gonna do the Viva. They will know what will convince them. So depends, I don't know. Depends what's the topic and what is your research about.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fatma, are you here? Amira? Amira, your mic is mute. Zertaj? Yes. Zertaj Fatima? Can you ask your question, please?
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I'm trying from that time to ask question, and the seminar was very good and lot of knowledge. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Ahmed sir. And I have done PhD long back, but nowadays these research methods and research subjects have been changed so much. So if I want to publish a paper, scientific paper, so which quantitative or qualitative, which methods are more giving weightage for the scientific paper?
It depends on the journal itself, because every journal have their scopes. But first, the topic, does it fit the journal or not? But I think that they don't mind what methodologies. It depends. That based on the journal scopes.
So if I am not sure about the latest research methodologies or methods, so I can go ahead with the paper and with the research by using the quantitative approach.
Yeah, what's the question? Sorry.
Sir, like now these research methods day by day, like a software, like previously we use SPSS, no? The MATLAB, R software. Day by day the research is changing, and if we don't know about the new research method, so can we go ahead with the theoretical approach, the quantitative approach, and we can go ahead with the research? Or it is compulsory to have a new latest research methods?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. Sorry. Dr. Ahmed,
I think Yeah, sure. I think Zertad, she's a doctor already, and she wants to start or writing a paper, a research paper, and she wished to publish it. But the problem, she don't know which method she will use, if it's qualitative or quantitative. Actually, Dr. Mohammed, he answered your question. So it's not about you want to choose a qualitative or quantitative. It's about your topic itself. Sometimes your topic is need to use qualitative, but other maybe it's easier if you have a database to use maybe data stream or Bloomberg to collect your collect your data. But there is some subject, for example, psychologics or any other subject, or they need to have surveys or interviews, and this is what's called as qualitative methods. And as Dr. Mohammed said, using Nvivo or other software. So it's not about choosing between qualitative or quantitative. It's about the research question itself. So you need to know your research question and what is the approach that you will take. And then after that, after you know the data, where you want to collect your data, here you will go ahead and see the journal or your goal, your journal's goal, which journal you want to publish. In this journal, you will see the theme of or the approach of this journal. There is some journals just for qualitative and others just for quantitative, and there is also many journals. They don't care if it's qualitative or quantitative. They care about the quality of the paper. I think this is the answer of your question.
And one more question, sir. And suppose I have done PhD long back, and now the methods are being changed. So what guidance you would like to give, like we should be ahead with this nowadays, the students who are doing PhD or current PhD students, they are using the research methods?
Yeah, it depends on the subject itself. There's no suggestion because, for example, it depends, as Dr. Ahmed said, it depends on the topic itself. Sometimes, for example, about COVID-19, if I want to say, for example, if I want to test how many people have recovered from COVID-19 in the Middle East. So yes. It's not qualitative, it's quantitative. So I have to analyze it like quantitative. It cannot be qualitative. It will be stupid if I do it qualitative. But sometimes, for example, if I want to know
how they feel, you want to go ahead, you want to ask them a question. Here, there is no data. You need to ask. You need the interview. You need to maybe write the surveys, as Dr. Mohammed said. So it depends. It depends. For example, if I have a question, if I have a student and they ask me, which approach do you want me to go, qualitative or quantitative? My question to him, what's your research question? From where you want to collect the data? This is the big question. From where you want to collect the data?
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Mohammed. I am feeling fresh after getting so much latest knowledge on research. I have published 10 to 15 papers, but I want to publish now Web of Science and Scopus. So that's what I am trying to increase my knowledge.
Of course. That's good.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nora?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Actually, I'm a master's student. I'm about to doing my dissertation right now. And actually, my question is about the disclosure of cancer patients in the Middle East. And my supervisor, I started with the proposal with the systemic review. Then my supervisor, changed it to a narrative review. And in this time, I'm confusing between the narrative and systemic. What is the methodology? What's the different methodologies between the two literature review? Because I'm secondary data. I'm not primary data. So can you help me, Doctor? What's the different methodology used between systemic and narrative review, please?
Systemic, sorry, say again.
Systemic and narrative.
Yeah, it depends. First, how many interviews did you have?
It is secondary data. I'm collecting from literature review. I'm reviewing a study before.
Victor, it's not about qualitative. This is different. If you know. I think Noura, do you want me to go ahead and answer the question, Victor?
Yeah. What's the topic? Sorry, first, what's the topic about the research?
It is disclosure of cancer diagnosis between Middle East, and she then told me to compare it with the Western country as well.
It's a systematic review. This is
but she said change it to narrative.
This is not qualitative.
Right.
Yeah, Dr. Mohammed talked about methodology, and this is a literature. But I can give you a hint. Inshallah, wait for the end of the presentation. I will announce the next webinar. It will be about the systematic review, and I think they will talk about narrative and systematic review clearly.
All right. So we don't use qualitative or quantitative in the secondary data. No. All right.
No, this is different. You will not collect the data.
Yes.
It's about literature review, and you need to discuss or doing a critical way in the literature. So yeah. Right. So it's not about what Dr. Mohammed doing right now. But I believe 100% next webinar, it will help you a lot because it's focused on this approach.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Good luck with your master. Fatima.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you for the webinar. And I have a question. I'm doing my PhD student in Saudi Arabia schools, and I did action research with a student. Actually, I have 3 questions. My first question was how they perceive this action research, and how they and the challenges to implement this kind of research. The first question, I used to observe the student, and I gave them something we call it pupil view template, which is something we use it in Newcastle University. And I used a questionnaire to just both of the 3 things to know how the student perceive this action research. Then I send a questionnaire to the parents also to know how their children feel about my study. I did interview with the homeroom teachers to ask her after she sat with her student and asked how they perceive. So I feel my study is a qualitative study, but not my first supervisor, the second supervisor, he always tell me you are mixed method.
Yeah.
I think my study is qualitative using something called multiple method. Am I right, or my
it's a mixed methodology. If you have quantitative and qualitative, it's a mixed methodology, but you have to decide in the methodology what is the primary data you have? Is it qualitative or quantitative?
So in the methodology chapter, should I write about mixed method?
It's a mixed method. It's obviously what I understand from you, it's a mixed methodology because you have questionnaires, quantitative, and you have the primaries, qualitative. So it's a mixed methodology, but you have to decide and you have to define how do you use all of them. Why did you use first the mixed methodology, and what the secondary data added to the primary data? Because you have to convince them it's not a waste of time. So I'm not just filling the methodology. You have to convince them I use the secondary data for this purpose, and it helped to understand the research more because of that, and that.
So I read in the literature review about multiple method. I thought my study is multiple method. It's not mixed method.
Mm-hmm.
I just confusing because I thought my study is qualitative, using triangulation, which is using, as you said, the quantitative and qualitative method.
Yeah. If it's multiple, all the methods are exactly the same. They're all primary. If it's mixed, there's primary and there's secondary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Thanks.
Bye.
Fayrouz. I mean.
Hi, Doctor. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, thank you for your time and for the valuable lecture.
Thank you.
Actually, I have 4 questions, but I will try to summarize them as much as possible. First of all, I'm a PhD candidate. I'm trying to contact supervisor. My major in accounting. I know that it's not your major, but mainly in accounting we are based on financial ratios and numbers as well. But the idea that I'm trying to propose is most fit for the quantitative rather than the qualitative. So do you think that this will let me lose my chance, so I shall put more effort in another topic, or mainly in the majors that depend on the numbers, it would be fine to go with other approach if there is supportive literature?
That depends. I don't know. What's the topic exactly? Did you work on the proposal yet?
Yeah, I've worked on a proposal. Actually, it depends on subjective ideas, like the manager's point of view regarding using software and accounting management, let's say. But mainly, the most of the students usually go to another approach, which depends on financial statements. That's why I will go out of the flow or out of the normal methods that people usually work. So will this reduce my chance based on, like, most of supervisors are familiar with other methods? This is my question. Or do you advise me to still and fight for my idea?
Well, it depends. That's actually a good question. If I'm a supervisor, I'm very interested in the topic itself, but I'm not familiar with the methodology you have chosen. And I agree on the methodology because I'm interested in the topic and I know the topic is valuable, and I'm convinced with the methodology, but I'm not familiar with this methodology. I'll pick another supervisor to help me who's familiar with this methodology.
So this will not be a limitation?
It depends. I'll be honest with you. If the first supervisor, sometimes he didn't have a second supervisor available. Mostly he will guide you to another one, or maybe he will force you to change the methodology if he's really interested in the topic.
Okay, then I will try my luck.
To be honest, good luck with that.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. So my second question, please. You talked about the combination, let's say, between the data, the qualitative and quantitative. So is it applicable for all topics. For example, if I'm developing an index which depends on statements, that could be either 0 or 1. So could this sort of data combined with the qualitative data?
Sorry, you're breaking.
Yeah, I have two sides. I wanted to do, for example, like a regression. The first side, the independent variable, for example, is based on index. I fill it exactly from the financial statements, for example, like 0 or 1, exist or does not exist, applied or does not applied. And the dependent variable, for example, could be based on script. So
that's quantitative.
Yeah. So will the software help me in this, or there is limitation of the sort of the quantitative data or qualitative data?
No. If you want to use quantitative, you use SPSS.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you use qualitative, you use Nvivo.
Yeah, because you have mentioned that I can merge or connect two softwares or integrate two softwares together. That's why I'm asking.
You don't retrieve the platform itself. You retrieve the themes you have picked with the quantitative analysis.
Oh, okay. So I can do the quantitative aside and match it again with the themes in general.
Yes. The themes, you have the themes with the quantitative. For example, the COVID-19, for example, the temperature of the patients are 40, for example. That's the quantitative you have. So you interview someone, most of them said 39. So that's contradiction. So you compare them together. The interview with a quantitative and
manual comparison.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I thought the software that will
no. Sorry, it's not manual. Oh. You code the outcomes of the quantitative in the text itself, like what you do in the literature, and you retrieve that the results of the quantitative. You retrieve that to the Nvivo and you compare them together.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. So another question, please. I've read about content analysis, grounded theory, and the themes, but I have some confusion about the key differences between them. Are those the same or led to same conclusion, or there are major differences to be mentioned in the methodology? When I say I'm following the grounded theory or I'm applying the grounded theory, others say that we are applying the content and the thematic analysis. So just in brief, I know there is limited time.
So what's your question?
Okay, mainly the key differences between content analysis, thematic analysis, and grounded theory.
Well, the content analysis, you analyze the content itself. For example, a whole interview. What's the approach of the whole interview going?
Okay.
For example, if it's this interviewee, for example, if you interview Abdullah Nafisi, for example, Dr. Abdullah Nafisi, he's extremely against the government. So that's the whole content. I'm not talking about each subject he talked about. The content is, the whole thing is against the government or extremist against the government. But the thematic, when you he talks about corruption, for example, what his thoughts about the corruption, what his thoughts about the royal family, for example. That's the thematic analysis.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm sorry for asking.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, the last thing, please. When I have open number of participants, for example, I'm interviewing the managers in the Jordanian bank, for example, there's thousands of managers. So what is the limit that I can stop on and say that it's adequate? Is there a rule of this? You see that the minimal is 40, for example, but what is the maximum that I can see it's adequate?
Sometimes 1 is enough. Sometimes 100 is not enough. But the minimum with the natural science is 40. As I said, it's because I want to train the students to make interviews, to make field work. Okay, I want to make students familiar with asking questions, discussing the questions. But there is no minimum and there is no maximum.
So there is nothing that will lead me to something equal to the normal distribution, let's say. As
probably if you're doing about any topic now, you will do a first field work.
Yes.
You will be familiar with the field work, familiar with the questions, and you will have integration for the questions, and you will do a second, maybe a third field work.
Okay, so this will lead me to my last question, I promise. That what are the key hints or advices you can give to us to get the most of the questions? We know that in the critical information, they will be much more conservative to answer. But in general, maybe some people by their nature, they don't like to speak, or they don't like to, or their time is limited. So what is the most tips and techniques from your experience to get the most of the interviewee and not to, for example, harm him or her to refuse to answer, like the smart way?
If it's from my experience, if it's a sensitive information, you don't ask. And first, you have to tell them from the beginning that the name will be anonymous. He will not, or she will not be mentioned, her name in the research, and you don't ask from the beginning about the name. And if you have anything like recording, you ask them their permission. If they say no recording, you don't record. So don't ask about the names, about private information, leave them at the end, and make the questions as open as possible.
Okay, so thank you, Doctor, for your time.
And from my experience, if they don't want to talk, they will not talk.
They will not. Okay. Okay, thank you, Professor. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fairuz. Iman, are you here?
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Muhammad, for this webinar. And my question is, did we can make a mix of qualitative analysis to analyze the data in literature review, for example, by using SPSS or by using interviews or mathematic analysis, and what is the best way to know what is the appropriate data that we can use for study?
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, it depends on the topic, and it depends on your background, what you are familiar with, what you have been trained with. And with most of the universities now, all of universities, if you are PhD students, you have to do courses with the data analysis. If your research is about qualitative, you ask them to train you with the qualitative research or quantitative research. The topic itself, the supervisor can suggest your literature, similar studies, and the research questions, the type of the definition of the problem. They will define, and they will guide you how to make your methodology.
Can we use all of this in one study?
Yes, yeah, you can use mixed methodology.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Muhammad, thank you so much. Now we finished the voice questions, but do you have time? Because there is other 30 questions. I tried to answer some of them.
Yes.
If you can take.
Sorry for everyone. I'm not looking about for everything here. So, but yeah,
no
yeah, of course.
I tried to answer what they the most that I can. Here, if you click in the Q&A below, if you can, and we'll start one by one. First one, Yasmin Ben Zida ask you about her question about, could you clarify the qualitative data via example, please? So what is the qualitative data?
Qualitative data is basically the type of information. I'm not looking about the quantity of information. I'm looking about the type of information. It could be lab reports. It could be interviews, but not quantitative, not numbers. But mainly, when we talk qualitative, it's interviews.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. And as he said before, about like a psychologist, like when they ask a question, we don't have data. We can't talk about those data from database. We need to ask and get these questions from them. And she has another question, which is, what do you think about the mixed method?
Depends also about the subject. Do you need another method or not? Do you think the qualitative or quantitative are enough? Do they answer your research questions? Sometimes you don't get a full answer about the research questions, so that's you have either to do another field work or change your approach to quantitative. So it depends on the topic. Sometimes you need to do mixed. Sometimes one method is enough.
I think, I don't know, Dr. Mohammed, if you see that most of the publishing paper nowadays, they didn't choose mixed method because it's hard. But I feel, or I think, if the paper have a mixed method, which is support each other, that will be I think this paper, if it's mixed method, it will publish in high rank journals, because I know it's so tough to do both methods.
Because the articles are different than the PhD. Because in the article, I'm not training the students to do the data analysis. And also the second thing about the articles, you are limited with words. Maximum number. All the papers now, you can't exceed 6,000 words. So you can't use much methodology. For example, I worked on a paper on the Kuwaiti water. Does it contain uranium or not? Or from the Iranian nuclear plant? That's it. The research question is, does it have the Kuwaiti water? Is it affected from the uranium or not? So that's not interviews, just taking samples from the water, and that's it. I don't need a mixed methodology. If I want to understand why do we have, I have to interview people. Did they have suffer, for example? Do we have like medical cases? Then I have quantitative. So that's it. The research questions force me to do water samples, and that's it. Do we have uranium in the Kuwaiti waters or not? So, and the journal, they have scopes. They don't care about your methodology, but as far as you answer the question of your research question. So my way is to answer this research questions, to do a field work in the Kuwaiti waters, take about 300 samples from the Kuwaiti waters and put them in the lab, and that's it. And that's applied to all type of research. You will know from your topic, will this methodology answer your question or not?
Thank you, Doctor. The next question, Nida. If I have 3 data qualitative sources, from where I have to start?
Sorry, what is it? If I have 3 data qualitative sources, what do you mean qualitative sources?
Maybe she to interview 3 persons, maybe, and she asked from where she will start.
Know.
Maybe.
What do you mean?
It's not clear, Nida. It's not clear, but if I don't know if I understand it right. I think just start from anyone. If you have an interview, so start with anyone, because you will go one by one. So in the end, you will interview all of these 3 sources, I believe. I don't know. Huda, can you read the question? It's appeared to you, Doctor?
Yeah. Can you please tell the difference between the qualitative and the quantitative researches? I think we answered that. Okay. The quantitative, it's about quantity, and qualitative about quality.
Okay, so next one. I mean the mixed method in human science. Thanks. So, it's not clear.
Mm-hmm.
Next one.
Please, would you send slides? Of course, yeah, I will send them later by email.
Yeah. The other one. I
Yes.
you for
my email.
If you can write in the chat.
Yeah.
Or Doctor, if you will share your slides, just write in the end of your slides your contact details. So I think it will be better so that everyone can reach to you.
Also, I wrote my email down.
Right. Next one. Next one, the framework analysis for the qualitative study considered as inductive or deductive.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, the framework for analysis for qualitative study. I don't know about this.
Okay, do you want me to answer it just quickly? It's depends if you start from theory or you start from research question. So it's depends. It's not about qualitative or quantitative here. Here you are talking about the whole topic, the whole subject, the whole thesis. So
because this is not clear for me. So I'm reading. I'm using mixed method of social constructive and how can I link the? This is also social science. My background is natural science, so I'm unable to answer this question.
Fayrouz, Mustafa.
Is it recommended to use the qualitative method in the business fields, mainly when there's alternative or financial data? It depends also what you're trying to answer. Actually, this based on the topic itself, even the same topic, depends how you approach the topic, what is the dimension you want to approach. So it depends on the topic itself. Sometimes the same topic, 100 methodology to answer it. So there's no definite answer for this. It depends on the topic.
Nida, again. Does the analysis of qualitative data based on concepts and literature review? I think I answered here, and inshallah, in the end of this webinar, I will announce the next webinar. It will talk about the systematic review. So what Dr. Muhammad talk about is different. He talk about methodology, not about the literature or this kind of approach. Muhammad Asif.
Do we need content analysis for qualitative research method, or how we are dealing with data gathering? Yeah, also it depends. Do you need to analyze the content, or do you the themes? Sometimes we only analyze the data being provided into the interviews. One of the studies I have done in Kuwait is just interview people and institutes. Not, for example, the Kuwaiti University. I want to know what are the data sampling for the waters, the data samples for waters, and how much the salinity, how much salt in it. So to understand, is the Kuwaiti waters being more salty or not? So I only interview people to have these lab reports, and went to the scientific institute, have these reports, the EPA have these reports, and comparing only the evidences. So I'm not comparing the contents, not the themes, but comparing and analyzing the evidences they have. So it depends also on the topic.
Thank you. The next one, Noura, as I said to Nida, next webinar it will talk about literature review. Aga?
Can you give an example from topic to a problem, to research questions, to methods, to contribution? Yes, for example, if we have the problem, for example, I have a problem, or I have to find out how much coffee affects the sleeping hours for the students in Newcastle University, for example. One way of it, to make a survey for all the students, how much they drink coffee. The first question, how much do you drink coffee at night? A day. And how much do you sleep at night? So 1 coffee a day, he'll sleep 6 hours. If he's 2 coffees a day, he'll sleep 3 hours. So from analyzing this, I'll understand that 1 coffee will, for example, deduct 1 hour of sleeping. That's way of understanding the problem. But this is not given me much, because some students, they don't sleep because of exams, and they only drink coffee when they have exams. So I have to interview people. So why did you not sleep last night 6 hours, for example? Well, okay, yes, I drank coffee, but I have exam. That's why I have homesick. So this is the way to approach. So what do you need to understand from that? Do I need just a general idea about how much coffee affects, or I need to ask questions about this? So this is a very basic example, but this gives you a same topic, but different approaches how to solve the problem.
Thank you. The next one, question of Abdul Qadir Makhlouf. Actually, it's an interesting question, and myself, I want to know the answer as well. How can we assure reliability in qualitative methods? So if I interviewed someone, or we received many surveys every week, so there is some people, they just answer because someone told them, or maybe just to do it, and that's it. So how we can know to talk the pure answer, or the pure the correct answer of the qualitative methods?
First, there is no correct answer, there is no wrong answer, there's nothing definite. But you have to link that to the literature. Does it make sense or not? Mm-hmm. Do the interviewee has evidence for his claim? Because every time when you transcribe, if you have a supervisor, I'll ask, well, the student will come, the X said that and that and that. So I ask the student, how do you know he's correct? Because he linked that to, for example, a natural incident. Well, for example, one of the interviewees said there's a massive fish kill in Kuwait every 3 years because of the oil spills. How do you support that claim? Well, I have reports on the oil spills. If you don't have reports on the oil spills, how do you support this claim? Well, there is 3 fish kills every year. So if he doesn't have a direct evidence on that, this will not be very reliable. If it doesn't make sense, it makes sense. This is not enough as a scientific evidence. But if it lines with the literature, for example, and he has, and they agree, for example, if 3 experts or 4 experts with different institutions, they agree on one thing. It's not definite still, but it will support your claim, because most of them, for example, if they are not government, but they are private, or they are independent institutions, they support one claim. This will give you a hint that there's something here. It's not definite still, but it's a strong claim. So the number of the people saying, because many people said that, they have evidence, they lines with the literature. So that will make reliable or not, but there is no, an absolute answer for that.
Right, and this is also, Dr. Mohammed, it's the same answer for the next question. What is the step do you suggest that improve the validation of the qualitative method? So you answer.
Well, some people, if you have 100 interviews, and for example, 90% of the interviewees said that, some people will take that as an evidence, because most of them, 90% of them, but that's also quantitative analysis. And you have, sometimes we avoid that in the qualitative. But the qualitative, we look for the evidences on the claims. If one of them have a scientific claim, that's it. Even if 100% of them or 99% said the opposite answer, but this one have a definite scientific claim or scientific evidence, I'll take that. But some people will go, if all of them don't have a scientific evidence for their claim, they will take the quantity of it, which is fine, but you can't take it as an approach for the qualitative analysis.
Right. You have answered Fayrouz, yeah? Or
yes.
No, sorry. Did you answer the Fayrouz or no? What is the point? No. What are the points shall we consider in the interview to get the most of the interviews? So maybe he asked about the open questions.
I answered that before.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Dr. Mohammed, I don't know if can you continue answer the questions or that's it? For me, it's all right. So it's up to you. There is also 20.
I think I'll have 5 minutes because I have an important phone call after that.
No worries.
About 5, 10, yeah.
This is the last question from Muhammad Asif. What is the procedure for content analysis? Any specific method that suggests to collect data using content analysis?
Yeah, you have to select your themes first. What exactly you need to know from the interviews. So you have to be because you had a serious reading for the literature, and you know that you have defined the problem, so you know exactly what you need to code from the interviews, and you found the gaps in the literature, and you're gonna fill them with the data collection. That's the contribution you want to do with the PhD or the research. So based on that, you analyze the content of the interviews.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed. Please, guys, before leaving the webinar, there is a survey. So I hope all of you fill this survey. I know it's a hot topic for most of the students and also early and doctors as well. It's now maybe 2 hours. Dr. Mohammed give this wonderful seminars with full of informative and useful information. Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed, for giving the time to teach us about this method. Thank you all for joining this webinar. The next webinar. Next webinar, it will be about how to conduct a systematic review by Dr. Haifa Al-Abbad. Thank you all, and thank you, Dr. Mohammed.
Salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam. See you next week. Alaikum salam. If anyone have any question, I am happy to answer it. Regarding a certificate, this webinar, it won't have or provide a certificate. I am so sorry, guys. I know there is many questions in the chat and the Q&A, but I try my best. We can't let the doctor keep answering, you know, but In the end, after sharing his slide, I will send you all of you his slide, and he will put his email, and you can ask him directly from his email. The survey after end this webinar is Zoom. It will take you directly to the survey. So it will take maybe 1 minute to answer it, or less, maybe less than 40 seconds. The rest of, how can we access the rest of webinars? Great. I announce all the webinars every week, like maybe today or tomorrow. I will announce for the next week. So how you will know, or how you will see the announcement via Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, ResearchGate, and Instagram as well. All of them in the same account, which is my account, Dr. Ahmed Al-Kattan. I will write Dr. Ahmed Al-Kattan. All of those accounts, same user.